Hey everyone, Andrarchy here, and today I want to talk about inflation. Dun dun dun! Inflation seems to be one of the main sticking points for people who are considering joining the Steem economy. So that's why I want to talk about it, and why don't we start by talking about what inflation actually is. The only definition of inflation that I care about is when the value of a currency goes down relative to the products and services it can be used to purchase. It's when a currency loses value. The main crux of the Steem Skeptics argument seems to be that the manner in which Steem is created will necessarily cause the value of Steem to go down in the future. It's important to note that their theories do not explain two important things: why Steem's value has increased from zero to whatever it is today, and why the value of the Steem dollar, which is different than Steem, has hovered right around the value of the US dollar. Actually, that's an important point. I wonder what would happen if instead of arguing with the Steem skeptic, you simply asked them, do you know the difference between Steem and Steem dollars? Because if they don't, then they are by definition ignorant. And so what can you really hope to actually accomplish by arguing with this person? Perhaps it would be more effective to explain to them what this difference is, assuming, of course, that they were open to having a genuine conversation. But if they believe that Steem is an inflationary currency and yet fail to understand that Steem isn't a currency at all, but a digital commodity that is used to back a currency that is called the Steem dollar, clue is in the title, and that currency has proven to be stable based on its ability to remain pegged to the US dollar, at least for the last few months, then I am pretty dubious of anyone's ability to convince them of anything, and I think it might be best to just cordially agree to disagree and wish them the best. But if they are sincerely open-minded and eager to understand this system which we all love so much, then we can proceed. But before doing that, let's clearly articulate their argument so that we can be sure we are accurately debunking their claims. Their claim is that because the supply of Steem is constantly growing at a steady pace of 100% a year, that this currency is inflationary and that is bad. In other words, they're saying that because the money supply grows 100% a year, the value of the money will go down over time. Yes, they are correct. Technically, the Steem money supply increases 100% a year. But where does it go? Well, it goes mainly one place. So currency goes lots of different places, right? It can go to people who dig ditches and fill them back in, or to people who dig ditches so that useful roads can be built on top of them. It can go to people who build bridges to somewhere, or bridges that go nowhere. It can go to people who build more advanced microprocessors. It can go to people who farm crops like corn and wheat, or to people who mine coal and gold. Now, do you think it matters where the currency goes? Or is it irrelevant? Does it not matter whether the currency goes to a person building the bridge to nowhere or mining the gold? In short, if you think that the value of a currency has nothing to do with who it is given to, then you do not believe that there is a meaningful difference between a monetary system that allocates currency to people who build bridges to nowhere and a monetary system that allocates currency to people who mine for gold. These are equally as valuable enterprises according to you. If this is what you believe, then you win. This conversation is over. Steem is worthless. Don't even bother looking into it. If, however, you believe that a currency will be more valuable when it is placed into the hands of someone who mines for gold, or even perhaps to someone who builds a better microprocessor, or better still, a quantum computer, then you might want to keep watching. So going forward, I will make a fundamental assumption, the falsification of which would disprove my entire theory. In other words, I have made the skeptic's job very easy. Disprove this point and I lose. And that point is that the value of a currency depends very much on who it is given to. But surely this is too complex a question. Who can possibly track all the different individuals to whom money is spent, especially in the absence of some NSA-like agency? Fortunately for us, the Steem-backed monetary system only really allocates Steem in two different ways, and even better, one of those ways actually accounts for the overwhelming majority of new Steem. Therefore, it is very easy, in fact, to discuss where most Steem goes. And a full 90% of new Steem is allocated to a very specific type of individual who is surprisingly easy to describe, though they will likely surprise you. Nearly all the Steem that are created are allocated to people who do not want Steem. That's right. They do not like Steem. They don't want to possess Steem. Not only that, but they don't even want to use Steem as an intermediary. They don't want to use Steem as a way of converting one type of asset, technically a derivative called Steem power, into some currency like Bitcoin or US dollars. In other words, these people would rather possess something called Steem power, which is backed by Steem, than either Steem itself or Bitcoin or USD. This tendency is a precondition for receiving Steem power. Now, if 90% of the new money supply goes to people who won't actually use it, how much has the money supply actually grown? This is why Dan refers to the Steem that is created and then allocated to Steem power as an accounting artifact. Yes, technically speaking, new money is printed, but it is built into the system that this money will never actually enter the broader money supply. Like the US dollars that were created in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis, this money is effectively segregated from the broader economy and so is not capable of affecting the value of the currency. Therefore, the money supply does not grow by 90%, and at most it can only grow about 10%. So the actual growth of the money supply is 1,000% less than what the skeptics think. 10% versus 100%. Do we really have to go further? But we shall. If the skeptic concedes that despite the aggressive money printing, Steem has still managed to go up in value over the last few months, and that the system has so far been stable enough for the Steem dollar to remain pegged to the US dollar, then they can only really contend that the 100% increase in the money supply will eventually overpower current market forces. And if that is the case, then how will their argument change once they come to understand that they have been dramatically overestimating how much the money supply is actually increasing over time? At this point, some people's minds may be short-circuiting. The belief that printing money creates inflation is a religious belief. Its adherents are equally as dogmatic, and the evidence for their claims is equally as ephemeral, illogical, and unscientific. Mathematical proofs are never provided, merely vague beliefs. So it might be best to throw them a bone and simply ask them to do this. Demonstrate to me how someone would go about acquiring Steem power while simultaneously demonstrating a persistent desire to convert that Steem power into Steem and then into something else. If you can do that, I will happily admit I was wrong and you have won. Show me one person who has a lot of Steem power but who also would prefer to have Steem or Bitcoin or dollars. It literally doesn't make sense. It is designed into the system that Steem is allocated to people who prove that they value Steem power over everything else. One could certainly make the argument that a money supply that increases by 10% a year could lead to inflation, and I would happily engage in that debate. However, that is not the argument that Steem skeptics make. Therefore, we can only hope for a day when their understanding of this system progresses to the level where we can actually engage in a reasonable debate about reality as opposed to religious dogma. Hope this helps, and see you soon.